I have read 39 out of 40 books in 2024, and I am halfway through um, For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, and I will probably finish this. Probably, things happen. Probably finish this before the end of the year, and so far it's a 5-star read, so it's probably going to be on my list of favorite books that I've read. I don't feel like I read as many 5-star books as I did this year, but I went back and I did the math. Sorry, I keep touching my headset. I'm trying to talk. And it's pretty much the same ratio. So there wasn't. I did have a few books that I was really excited for that just kind of, were okay. But to start out at the beginning of the year, these 2 books here, these are my books. I rated them 5 stars. Of course I did. They're my books. I believe in them. Or these 3 books, not just these 2. So, and these are the 3 that we rapid released. So Goodreads counts them, and I'm also going to count them because I read them multiple times this year. Bring Me Your Midnight. I don't remember that one. That was the one that was like the witches on like the island. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, of these, Heartless Hunter is one of my favorite books. I am very excited. Why isn't it doing that thing where it pops up it should pop up like whatever Goodreads, whatever. Trying to do things and Goodreads is like, no. But of these, Heartless Hunter is one of my top reads. It was so delightful. It was fast paced. It was great. I am very, very much looking forward to book 2. And I have the Owlcrate edition because I don't know if I would have bought that book on my own. It came in my Owlcrate in whatever month it came in. It was one of the first books that I got through Owlcrate, and it was delightful. And I just read the witch and versus like witch hunter romantasy, and I was in, and it was great. I loved it. Barrow of Winter, I also really enjoyed. That was book 3 in the Hall of Smoke series, and I started reading book 4, the final book in that series, and it's still sitting over there. It's on my currently reading list. I'm reading like a chapter at a time. I'm not reading it very quickly. I don't know why. I think because the main character in every book so far has been really enjoyable, and the protagonist of book 4 is just not the protagonist that I want to spend time with right now. Like, she's a little bit more I don't know what word I want to use. I mean, I like her as a protagonist, don't get me wrong, because H.M. Long can write very well. She's a very talented author. But book 4 isn't quite what I'm looking for right now. Like, I will finish it hands down, and it will probably be a 5-star read. But I'm feeling more the romantic high fantasy, and she doesn't write very much romance in this series. Like, there's very, very little romance. Moving on. Two Twisted Crowns was also absolutely amazing. It's book 2 in the whatever duology, and the title of book 1 escapes me right now, but I read it last year and I loved it. I think it was in like my top 3 books that I read because it was fantastic. I really liked the Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. The first, like Act 1 and Act 2 of that book were absolutely phenomenal. They were creepy. They were just the perfect folkloric, creepy, like cabin in the woods that I absolutely loved. I don't want to say the word adored it. It's not the word I want, but I really enjoyed it. Did not enjoy Act 3 as much as Act 1 and Act 2. So I think I ended up being a 4-star read just because I just didn't quite enjoy Act 3 as much as I enjoyed the rest of the book. What Feasts at Night here, and then What Moves the Dead. That is book 1 and book 2. Book 1 is the What Moves the Dead, I am fairly certain. Also by T. Kingfisher. It's book 1 at least is a retelling of the House of Usher, or the fall of the House of Usher. by Poe, Edgar Allan Poe, and it was phenomenal. It's short and sweet, is just as long as it needs to be. I think it might have been like a 4-hour read on my Kindle. And What Feasts at Night is the main character of that book, in like a different creepy scenario, and it's also delightful. I really like the protagonist of those two books. And I don't know how to describe them, but it's like if you're looking for a protagonist that like goes by they them, definitely check out What Moves the Dead and What Feasts at Night. And I think there might be more in that series, I don't know. But I have not encountered a book that does like different pronouns as well as that book. I haven't encountered very many of them, let's be honest. There was one that I read, it's been several years ago, that actually really just annoyed me because they shoved it in your face a lot and it felt like it was getting in the way of the plot. But anyway, moving on. Those books, both 5 stars, absolutely phenomenal. Highly recommend for anyone who's looking for something that's just a little spooky, but not like gore spooky. That's also something I liked about the Twisted ones. Like, it wasn't gore and like body horror. It wasn't trying to gross you out by doing creepy things. It was just very atmospheric and creepy, which is the creepy that I really enjoy. Oh, and there's also The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. It's I thought it was just going to be a fun installment of the Darker Shade of Magic series. No, it's like a book one of a new series set in the same world. And I was so overjoyed when I got to like the last part of the book where it's like end of book one. I was just like, oh. I was like that little just like exciting feeling because I really enjoyed the Darker Shade of Magic series. I I read book one. I remember reading book one and not knowing that it was part of a series and being disappointed. Because I remember thinking, like, there were all these loose threads. I'm like, what do you mean the book's over? Then I discovered it was part of a series, and I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And, like, book 2 and 3 of that series were phenomenal. Love that. It's like a high fantasy, adult fantasy series, and it's absolutely incredible. If you've never heard of it, definitely, definitely, definitely check it out. And then we have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sharafi. I probably did not pronounce that correctly, but sorry if I did not. But this book right here, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sharafi, absolutely fantastic. It's in my top 3. I know all of the books are in my top 3. But it was such a refreshing and incredible just pirate adventure. A lot of people on Book Talk said that, when they talked about books with older protagonists, they recommended this one because the main character, Amina, I think she's in her 40s, but she's a retired pirate, right? And so she's already had this grand pirate adventure, and she has got to go back into it for plot reasons. But it's so incredible. It's in the same world as like the what is that series she did? City of Brass. It's in that same world, but it's in the human world and it's like separate. It's not connected. But that book was phenomenal. It's just she writes very well. And you just get into it, you read like one little paragraph about one character and like it feels like you've been known that character for like an entire book series. And then I also read The Darkness Within Us. See, why that little pop-up, why didn't it do that before when I like wanted to look at another one of these? Like it's not doing it down here to these. That's whatever, Goodreads. The Shadows Between Us was and is still the only book that I have ever read in a single sitting, like from cover to cover. And I kind of expected that same thing with The Darkness Within Us, and it didn't hit the same notes. And I don't know if it's because it follows the sister of the main character of The Shadows Between Us, who just isn't as engaging to me, or if it's because when I read The Shadows Between Us in a single sitting, it's because I had mowed the yard the day before in shorts and I didn't put any sunscreen on, and my legs were Very sunburnt, and I couldn't move. So I sat and I read. But it was good. I enjoyed it. Just not as much as the first one. And I also have The Wildwood Whispers, which does that mean I rated it 4 stars? I might have rated it 4 stars. I don't know. It was a very suspicious. It was a very sprite. Why can't I? Hold on. I will get the word out. I will get it out. Surprising. I don't know why that was so difficult for me to say right there. Maybe I just need to drink some coffee. It was a very surprising read because I bought it. It was on my Kindle. Didn't remember anything about it. Read the first couple chapters and I thought about DNFing it. But I'm like, no, let me give it some more time just because the beginning is just a little confusing. Then I got into it and it's actually really, really good. It's very, I don't know if I would classify it as cozy. It's a little cozy. Like it's cozier than other things that I have read, but in like a natural witch kind of way. Like it's not like classic witchcraft. It's like more natural medicine woman witchcraft. It doesn't actually call it witchcraft. Thoroughly surprised by that book. How to Sell a Haunted House. I bought this one on like an email newsletter after hearing about it from like 2 or 3 other people, and like one of my favorite YouTubers also recommended it. The first, I think 40 to 50% of that book was great. I loved the first half because it just has all these creepy little moments that are just like make me like as I'm reading like physically like because it's if you have like a phobia of like dolls and you want something spooky, How to Sell a Haunted House is a book for you. But then the second half just didn't quite live up to the first half because it gets a little bit more body horror, gory, and I just kind of that's not scary to me. That's just gross. I don't want to read it. I wanted to read more horror. There's more horror titles on my list this year than I think there's ever been. Like I read The Hacienda also. It was okay. I mean, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad book by any means. I enjoyed it. But I think by the time I got to the end, I was ready for it to be over. The same thing with The Only One Left. I listened to the audiobook of this one and I enjoyed it. And by the time the story really got going and like I figured out I could listen to audiobooks, on my computer while I'm playing Minecraft, I zoomed through the end of this one because I was only listening to audiobooks on my way to work and home. So I was only listening to like 20 minutes at a time. And then we get up here. The Foxglove King is the book that I fell into listening to it while playing Minecraft. It was so like I engaging. It is just the book that I wanted when I wanted it. It's adult fantasy, romantic, a little dark, and I was not anticipating liking it as much as I did. And then I read The Hemlock Queen immediately after. Ran out of audiobook hours, bought more through Spotify, and then ran out about 2 hours from the end. And then I ended up just buying the books and then finishing finishing just the physical book. And I have since pre-ordered book 3, which unfortunately does not release until like July. So that's sad because it's one of those where like you finish book 1 and you need book 2 immediately. And then you need book 3 immediately after book 2 and you have to wait 6 months. But of all of these, my favorite books are going to be between The Foxglove King, Heartless Hunter, and Amina Al-Sharafi. I think those are my top 3. And I don't know if it's because Foxglove King is just the most recent 5-star read, and I'm including The Hemlock Queen with Foxglove King because they're book 1 and book 2. Foxglove King, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sharafi. Those are my top 3 reads of 2024. And you know a book's going to be like a 5-star read if you need book 2 immediately after you close the cover of book 1. Because there's been several books that I've read where like they're good, but I don't want to immediately jump into book 2. I need to take a breath. And the books that I need book 2 right now, those are the books that I'm chasing. Those are the books that I want so bad. Oh yeah, Iron Flame, forgot about that. I enjoyed Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing was one of my favorite books that I read last year, but oh my gosh, Iron Flame. I don't know if like the editor was just sick when they went over Iron Flame, but that book could have been 40,000 words less. There was just so much repetition and so much that was just it read like unedited fan fiction, okay? Like it wasn't bad. The story is there, but it was just so much. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. I enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. Have I pre ordered book 3? Yes, because I also need it. I will wait for the editor to get done with it before I read it. I am okay with waiting for a better book. It's like everyone has only said good things about what is it? Legendborn? And I have book 1 and book 2 sitting on my shelves. But a part of me is waiting until book 3 is released so that I can just dive into them. Of course, I did that with Crescent City too. And as you can see, book 2 is right there. So book 1 and 2, I'm currently reading book 3. I have been reading book 3 for a while. I love Sarah J. Maas, okay? I trust her to tell me a story with these bricks of books, okay? And they are bricks. And I thoroughly enjoyed Crescent City 1 and Crescent City 2. I am enjoying Crescent City 3, but just not as much as I enjoyed like ACOTAR or Throne of Glass. Probably because it's more urban fantasy, and I really like urban fantasy, so I'm kind of trudging my way through a chapter at a time. I don't want to say I'm disappointed with the books that I've read this year. Like, again, I wish there were more books on this list. I wish I had more time. You know, like I said, with rapid releasing 3 books and just having a job and being exhausted some nights where I just don't want to do anything. Doing the audiobooks has definitely helped me read more books. Like I would not have read The Only One Left or The Foxglove King or The Hemlock Queen. I would not have read any of those books had I not listened to the audiobook. So I'd be behind. I mentioned in my other video, my goals of 2025, that I wanted to read more books via audio. And now that I know I can sit and listen to a book while my brain just farted. Do you see that? It just went. But now that I know that I can listen to an audiobook while like playing Minecraft or just some other mindless game while, detoxing all the stress from my body, that has been a major help. So if you want to read more books, audio. And if you don't want to pay the very expensive fees for audiobooks, check out like the discounts on like Chirp is the one I've gotten. I've gotten like 3 audiobooks. They had a Black Friday sale where like a lot of audiobooks were like $2.99, $1.99, $4.99. So I've got I think 3 or 4 that I've purchased and are in my queue for just whenever I feel like starting a new book. I will definitely finish For the Wolf by the end of the year. So I will hit 40 books of 40 in 2024. I would really like to read more than 40 books next year. And I think the key is just finding a book series that just pulls me in and won't let me go. Like there was one, I don't know where it went, where you could see all the books that you've read and all of the challenges. But whatever year that I discovered Throne of Glass and then also ACOTAR, I read all of those books that were available. And I read like 48 books out of my goal of 20 books. So I just need to find the books that just pull me in and won't let me go. Instead of starting books that I can tell from like the first couple chapters that they're okay, but they're just not books that I will enjoy thoroughly. Because that's what I did back when I was reading like Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, because I was working at a library. So I had access to all these books, and I would read like the first chapter or so of all of these different books. And so I would pick the ones out that drew me in. So I wasn't reading like the 4 and 3-star books just because I bought them. I was putting them aside and choosing the books that I knew were going to be, 4 and 5-star reads. I think that's the difference. But then also, as an author myself, I don't really want to mark a book as DNF because I feel like it's like I'm throwing spitballs at other authors, and I don't want to do that. But at the same time, as a reader, it's my prerogative that if I want to DNF a book, I can. I just don't keep public track of it. Because I had a DNF shelf on my Goodreads. I have since deleted it because I didn't want to be like, the asshole that had like a DNF shelf with other books in it, especially if it's like a small indie author whose book is in there, because there was a small indie author whose book was in there, and I felt after I realized that's what it was, I'm like, ugh, that makes me look bad, doesn't it? And I just don't want to be that person anymore because technically other authors are like my coworkers. So I don't like, even if you don't like a book that someone has written, you don't have to tell them about it. Because I'm all for like, being honest. If you don't like a book, that's fine. But I also remember being the young author who was very hurt when people didn't like my book. But those are my top books of 2024, and I'm really hoping in 2025 to not force myself to like finish books just because I own them, and to focus more on reading books that I enjoy, because that is why I read. That's why I write. I enjoy books, and I want to find that next 5-star experience, that book that's going to keep me up all night, that's going to make me think about it when I'm not reading, that's going to make me want to read rather than sit and play a game or sleep. So those are my books. I hope that your 2025 is also full of 5-star reads. I had another thought, and I don't remember what it was. But I'm going to go warm up my coffee because it's cold. I have read, oh, let me scroll up. Where's my mouse? There it is.